High energy prices and increasing living costs could fuel civil unrest across Europe over the winter. Norway and Germany are some of the developed economies facing issues in everyday life because of labor actions, a trend which has already been seen in the UK. So what does the US have to do with it? Keep on watching this video to find out. Welcome back to ASML Monopoly. In this video, we will be looking at the aggressive energy crisis protest in Europe. So clearly, you do not want to miss out on this. Let's begin. Europe is currently preparing now to suffer the consequences of the wrong-headed interventionist policies it had followed for over a decade. Inflation, an energy crisis, and perpetual economic stagnation are the expected outcomes of quantitative easing, unnatural negative interest rates, banning traditional energy sources without any feasible alternatives, massive debt, enormous government spending, and over-taxation. All of that occurred long before the war troubled European lands. Russian President Vladimir Putin's aggression in Ukraine brought an unsustainable situation out into the open. The most precise illustration of the damage government intervention for political purposes has done in the energy sector. For many years, politicians in the European Union have shut down nuclear power plants, closed coal plants, as well as banned natural gas exploration, hurting the supply side in the name of so-called green energy. This open war on energy sources without having renewable alternatives to meet the demand levels, coupled with fiscal repression, has made the EU dependent on Russia and non-ally countries for energy, affecting national security. European bureaucrats frequently talk about saving the environment and encouraging electric vehicles, but still the essential elements of the batteries of those vehicles are produced and processed mainly in China, one of the world's biggest polluters, and increasing dependence on an adversary country. It's not really clear how the climate is improving by destroying the European economies that have become cleaner while increasing reliance on China, as a communist country pollutes more. On the other hand, the entire EU economic model is based on cheap energy obtained from Russia and their low input costs used to create high-quality products exported to the world. This is why the trade balance of the EU has been positive until recently. That model was aided by low interest rates, which increased imbalances and debt. Russia already knows the unsustainability of this economic system, which is further damaged by green policies. Moscow is hitting Europe by increasing its production costs in this sensitive economic model that Putin is exploiting to bring the continents to its knees. Moreover, the EU has increased its regulatory and tax burdens, which have limited investments in the energy sector and driven up prices. Between 70 to 75% of the price of electricity in most European countries are taxed and regulatory costs. Americans should know that the mentality with European bureaucrats is that if something exists in European economies, it will need to be regulated and taxed. Many Europeans are deeply lacking in economic liberalization and incentives for production and innovation at the same time. America was built and prospered on entrepreneurship and freedom. There is already a lot of evidence around this discontent. Activists in Britain have announced a boycott of energy bills from next month. Trade unions have staged mass rallies demanding higher wages, lower fuel and fuel costs, and higher taxes on wealthy individuals. There also have been strikes in the UK, France, Spain, and Belgium for higher pay among public workers whose salaries cannot match inflation. Soaring global energy prices that are pushing up the cost of almost every imaginable commodity, mainly heating and food, and to cook it. Many desperate people are driven to the edge by years of austerity measures, and employment could reach a tipping point. Albania is an example of a nation blessed with natural resources but cursed with bad governance. The Balkan country creates electricity using clean hydropower, but it isn't energy independent. In the recent democratic transition, there has been neither a liberalization nor further diversification of the energy sector. Moreover, there has never been a clear vision and strategy to build the capacity to store the energy produced in a year, invest in the transmission and production, and reduce distribution losses. These are defined as the difference between the electric power that enters the system produced by power plants connected to the grid and energy that is delivered to customers connected to the network. The state provides people with electricity at a fixed price for families and consumers, the equivalent of 8 cents per kilowatt hour. Starting next month, the government stated that if someone uses more than 800 kilowatt hours in a month, they will pay 36 cents per kilowatt hour, a considerable increase in a country where the monthly salary is the equivalent of around $500. Since Albania doesn't have the capacity to store what's produced, it sells energy at a lower price during summer and purchases. It has a higher price during the winter, when demand is increased, although it has the potential to be energy independent. Albania suffers from the same policies of redistribution, over-taxation, centralization of means of production, and decision-making that's ruining other European countries. Now, instead of decreasing the value-added tax on the most basic products, the government hands out money to fight inflation while spending unnecessarily and shifting capital to its cronies. Recently, the government created an unconstitutional board that, together with the most significant market participants, sets fuel prices periodically. Now, based on theory by the country's biggest financial magazine, Albanians pay 2.5 times more fuel than the neighboring countries. The government debt has skyrocketed, taxes are high, only a handful of individuals control almost every sector of the economy. Also, there is little market freedom or competition. The rising energy and food prices ensure a hard winter for Albania, a small example of where Europe is headed. Governments believe they can adjust consumer behavior to suit specific political ideas. They intervene in markets by artificially moving supply as well as the demand to levels not explained by the sentiment of the market participants, and also playing to a small fringe of eco-extremists. This has deformed the fundamentals of energy and other markets. It may still be possible to reverse course, open the closed coal plants, and invest in nuclear energy while encouraging natural gas exploration. At the same time, individuals, families, along with businesses, need to be helped by lowering all taxes on income profits and basic products and by reducing government spending. Back in 2020, the deep supply cuts were agreed upon by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Russia at the urging of America, whose then President Donald Trump wanted to protect the American oil industry that has grown to become one of the world's largest oil producers to a domestic boom in fracking. But the Biden administration backtracked on this and urged increased oil production, blaming the OPEC cartel for failing to turn supplies of crude back faster. Under these two presidents, the U.S. sought to raise and lower what are now runaway global prices to suit its own domestic agenda. Significantly, the White House asked for production to be speeded up only after the invasion in Ukraine already made everything worse in terms of worldwide fuel prices. Addressing the elephant in the room, the Saudis have blamed the U.S.'s fickleness for causing its fuel crisis and the concerns of other countries worldwide. The scale of Western military backing for Ukraine against Russia only prolongs the war rather than ending it, exacerbating the energy crisis. The perverse contradiction is that the US-led sanctions regime against the Russian oil industry has caused prices to rise. This has led, counterintuitively, to producers with Russia making massive profits. The governments of Europe, the UK, and the US seem to struggle to pay for adequate measures that their populations need to survive the winter as their energy bills and producers' profits spike. Also, if there is a chance that the people might struggle to survive winter, there is a greater chance that their governments will not. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be up to date with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon in another video.